Good evening and welcome to the Township of Chatham Township Committee meeting for Thursday, December 13th, 2018. Greg, has adequate notice been given?
Yes, adequate notice of this meeting of the Township Committee was given as required by the Open Public Meetings Act as follows. Notice was given in the Chatham Courier and the Morris County Daily Record on January 5th, 2018. Notice was posted on the bulletin board in the main hallway of the municipal building on January 5th, 2018. And notice was filed with the Township Clerk on January 5th, 2018.
Thank you. Please stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Solen?
Here.
And Mr. Kelly?
Here.
Mr. Sullivan? Deputy Mayor Schwartz?
Here.
Mayor Ritter?
Here. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we're going to forego reports tonight. We've got a very long agenda here to this evening with a lot of important topics. So before we get into the thick of it all, we're going to open up for a hearing of citizens. This is an opportunity for any member of the public to be heard on issues which are not topics scheduled for public hearing tonight. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, we are asked that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. All right. We will close the hearing of citizens and we'll begin with a presentation by Albert Cruz, our counsel, and Tom Chiccarone, the Township Administrator, regarding the affordable housing obligation and compliance mechanisms. I'll turn it over to...
I have a question. It says the comments are not to be the items to be discussed, so that would exclude the skate park?
You'll discuss the skate park after the presentation and the ordinance is introduced.
So not right now.
Correct. Albert, Tom?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much. What I'd like to do is present an overview of the requirements for municipalities to comply with affordable housing, explain what the township's obligation is, and then explain how the township is meeting that obligation. Then with respect to the ordinances that are on tonight, after I make that general presentation, the developer of the skate park is here and would like to address the Township Committee with respect to the redevelopment plan. There is also the ordinance regarding the amendment to the Dixie-Dale rezoning. All those things you should have and hear from myself and the developer before you have a public hearing on it. So that will give context to the overall discussion. It may answer some questions as we go along, but it will also allow the public to review the entire matter and then ask questions that pertain to the entire thing. So you won't be having public hearings on each ordinance as you normally do, but it'd be a public hearing on the first 2 ordinances. The third ordinance, the smoking and vape ordinance, that will be separately handled after you finish with the affordable housing. So with that, I would like to provide a background of Mount Laurel. In 1975, the New Jersey Supreme Court ruled that as a matter of constitutional law, that municipalities could not engage in exclusionary zoning, meaning using the zoning power to exclude low and moderate income households by providing limited housing choices. This is commonly known as the Mount Laurel Doctrine. As the Mount Laurel Doctrine developed, municipalities are required to provide for a housing mix and provide a realistic development potential for that housing through zoning. The Mount Laurel Doctrine also recognizes that where a municipality fails to provide a realistic development potential, that builders may sue a municipality for a builder's remedy. This means that a builder may sue a municipality to have a court order a higher density development with a mix of market rate and affordable units. After 1975, this resulted in litigation between municipalities and builders, and in 1985, in response to the mounting litigation in this area, the New Jersey legislature adopted the Fair Housing Act, which was intended to transfer jurisdiction for the administration of and planning for affordable housing from the courts to an administrative agency known as the Council on Affordable Housing, often referred to as COA. COA is charged with adopting regulations to administer affordable housing on a statewide basis. If municipalities followed the COA procedure, municipalities would be immune for a period from builder remedy lawsuits. However, since 1999, COA has been and was unable to adopt regulations that were legally sustainable, notwithstanding that the courts, including the New Jersey Supreme Court, urged COA to act. In 2015, after many years of COA being unable to adopt valid regulations, the New Jersey Supreme Court concluded that COA was dysfunctional and returned the administration of affordable housing to the courts. Between 1999 and 2015, again, many courts also called upon the New Jersey legislature to act, but the legislature failed to enact any meaningful affordable housing legislation during this period. This leaves municipalities where they are today, namely before the courts seeking approval of their affordable housing plans to receive immunity from builder remedy lawsuits and be able to preserve their zoning from challenge. With that condensed 43-year history on Mount Laurel and COA's lack of regulation as background, the question now becomes, what is the township's affordable housing obligation? That is the subject of pending litigation, which the township has been attempting to resolve. Because of the nature of litigation, resolution of the litigation occurs within a court-sponsored mediation process based upon input from the special master appointed by the court, the Fair Share Housing Center Incorporated, the Supreme Court designated affordable housing advocate, and the elected officials. Affordable housing was regulated by COA based upon rounds. The second round ended in 1999, and as I said, no valid regulations have been adopted since 1999 for the third round. So what has the municipality done to attempt to meet its affordable housing obligation? The municipality filed a declaratory judgment action to obtain protection from the Superior Court against builders' remedy lawsuits while it developed an affordable housing plan. To determine that obligation, the municipality engaged in court-supervised negotiations with Fair Share Housing and came up with the following plan to meet that obligation. In order to review the obligation, you have to look at the second round and the third round as a joint unit. If you want to put that second slide up, Tom.
This will be edited later when it's posted online, so it's a little more seamless with the...
The first slide is what I have just been describing, the constitutional obligation. The second slide begins the presentation of how the municipality is meeting its affordable housing obligation. You have to start by looking at the second round and then combine that with the third round. The municipality has had a rehabilitation share originally set at 63 units. That rehabilitation share, after a field survey conducted by the township administrator and verified by the special court master, was reduced from 63 to 6. There will be no specific program for the rehabilitation share because of its size, but there is a county program for rehabilitating units which residents of the township would be eligible for, or rehabilitation would occur naturally. The second round contained, and this was already decided, this was already subject to a substantive certification by COA of the second round. The township's second round obligation was 83 units, and that obligation was met. And in fact, the township had 4 surplus units. Now we go to the third round, and the agreed upon, you can go to the next, the third round, the agreed. The administrator pointed out something very important, and that is the municipality, while COA was not adopting valid regulations, or they were being challenged in the courts, COA did require municipalities to submit affordable housing plans, and it did so twice, and I believe that the last time that was required was in 2010. The municipality at each stage, for the second round and then at each stage of the third round, has submitted plans for a review by the Council on Affordable Housing, but those plans were never reviewed by COA and never granted approval to the municipality. So that leaves us in the present posture of being in litigation to try to resolve this constitutional obligation. The agreed upon number is 387 units for the period 1999 to 2025, or a 25-year period. However, that obligation is adjusted in the following ways. There was a vacant land analysis performed by the township planner, and the township planner determined that there was only sufficient land in the town for 200 affordable housing units. So immediately we go from 287 to 200, I'm sorry, 387 to 200, and that means that the RDP, or the realistic development potential number that the municipality has to address, is 200 with various compliance mechanisms. The compliance mechanisms for the third round are as follows. There is a regional contribution with the City of Newark for 8 units. Now, that regional contribution agreement was part of the second round, but you're allowed to adjust and allocate between the second and third round, so that those 8 units are now allocated to the third round and count toward that obligation of 200 units. Regional contribution agreements were discontinued by the New Jersey legislature in 2008. However, this is an RCA that was already approved and paid for by the municipality. Additionally, the Vernon Grove condominium is also a second round affordable housing development where the affordability controls expired in 2016. The township extended those controls and reached an agreement with the Vernon Grove Condominium Association to extend the affordability controls on 72 units for 30 years, or until the year 2046. The Superior Court of New Jersey has held a separate fairness hearing regarding that agreement and approved it. So Vernon Grove is 72 units. The skate park, which is subject of the redevelopment plan public hearing tonight, is 24 units. The redeveloper of the skate park will make a presentation prior to the public hearing on how the skate park will be developed. It is important to note that the skate park has been an affordable housing zone for at least 20 years. In addition to the 24 units, the township is allowed 24 bonus credits for a multifamily development, so the skate park is worth 48 units or credits. So 3 of the 4 components of the township's affordable housing plan have been or are part of already existing plans, as Mr. Chickarone pointed out. They've been a part of the township's plan. Now the municipality is moving forward to implement those plans. The last component is a 100% municipally sponsored affordable housing development or developments of 74 units. The site or sites remain to be acquired, but the township, through its negotiations with the special master and Fair Share Housing, has committed to this affordable housing mechanism to meet 74 units. This results in an additional 26 units or bonus credits worth a total of 100 for the 74 units. So to summarize, 8 units were already addressed in the city of Newark, 72 units were already addressed in Vernon Grove, 24 units plus 24 bonus credits will be addressed at the long-standing designated affordable housing zone, the skate park, and 74 units will be addressed at an affordable housing site or sites that is municipally sponsored, and that will yield an additional 26 units or credits worth a total of 100. This is 178 units plus 50 bonus credits, or 228 units. We also have 4 other bonuses or credits from the second round, so the township has a total of 232 total units against the 200 obligation. Because the town took a vacant land adjustment to reduce the original number from 387 to 200, there is an unmet need. Unmet need is the difference between the 387 affordable housing obligation and the 332 total units or credits available to the township. That means there is 155 units as unmet need. Unmet need is addressed through a municipal-wide zoning set-aside ordinance, providing that if a zoning ordinance is adopted or a use variance granted at 6 or more units to an acre, a 20% affordable housing set-aside will be required. That is something that is prospective and only occurs if the governing body changes a zone and rezones a property at 6 or more units to an acre, or the Board of Adjustment grants a use variance to a property owner or a developer at 6 or more units to an acre. But it is a town-wide, and there is no specific number attached to that because there is an attempt to capture affordable units if and when the opportunity arises. There is also a proposed overlay zone at the Fairmont Commons at 12 units to an acre with either a 20% set-aside for affordable housing units or, if for sale, at 15%. If you show that, I think the next chart, that's it, all right. Also on the agenda tonight, and based upon the above, the proposal before the Township Committee is to enter into a settlement agreement with Fair Share Housing Center, which resolves 2 litigations: the Township's declaratory judgment action to fix the Township's affordable housing obligation and compliance mechanisms, and to grant immunity to the municipality until the year 2025 from builder remedy lawsuits. The second lawsuit is Fair Share Housing Center's challenge to the rezoning of the Dixie-Dale farm at the end of 2017. Under the non-consent agenda, a resolution is proposed for your consideration authorizing the mayor and clerk to sign the settlement agreement. If the settlement agreement is authorized, then the court will schedule a fairness hearing in February 2019 after public notice, and the public is welcome to participate in that process before the Superior Court in Morristown. Neither approving the settlement agreement nor the ordinances on the agenda tonight, ordinance numbers 2018-22 and 2018-23, grant any approvals. The normal design, application, notice, public hearing requirements applicable to any development apply before the planning board, and those requirements will be followed. There are 3 ordinances on tonight's agenda. All 3 ordinances were referred to the planning board for a determination of whether or not the ordinances were inconsistent with the master plan. That is a requirement whenever you have a zoning ordinance, that the planning board review the ordinance and make a determination against the master plan. Ordinance 20-1822 is the skate park redevelopment plan, and the planning board found it is not inconsistent with the master plan and has submitted a report to that effect. Ordinance 2018-23 amends the Dixie-Dale Farm rezoning ordinance adopted in 2017 by revising how building height is calculated, adding a perimeter buffering requirement, and requiring phasing of the market rate units at Dixie-Dale with the affordable units at the skate park, meaning that for a certain percentage of COs issued for Dixie-Dale, a certain percentage of the buildings at the skate park must be completed. The planning board found, like it did last year, that the amendment to the Dixie-Dale Farm ordinance is inconsistent with the master plan. Because of this determination, if the township decides to adopt this amendment, the amendment must be by an affirmative vote of at least 3 township committee members. Here we have 5. That really applies if you only had 3 members present. You would, and although 2 of the 3 would be pass. 3 would be a quorum, 2 of the 3 could pass something. In this particular instance, even if there are only 3 members here, all 3 would have to vote in the affirmative, but that does not apply here tonight because there's a full complement of the Township Committee. Ordinance 2018-24, addressing smoke and vape shops. That was also referred to the Planning Board, and the Planning Board found that it is not inconsistent with the master plan. I've used the term not inconsistent with the master plan several times, and that is simply the way the municipal land use law requires that the finding of the Planning Board make. It's 2 negatives, but that's the way the law was written. At this point, Mr. Mayor and Township Committee, I would suggest that the redeveloper make their presentation regarding the skate park redevelopment plan. This will allow everyone in the public and the Township Committee to see the plan as a whole, and then I'll make some very brief comments regarding the amendment to the Dixie-Dale ordinance, basically the same comments that I've made a moment ago. And then after this presentation, the presentation by the redeveloper, then I would suggest you open it to the public and treat the 2 ordinances that are zoning related or affordable housing zoning related together. So you have the context of all of the public comment, and the public has the entire context, and then you vote on them separately. And I will work with you or guide you through that process. I ask you to hold off on the public hearing for the smoke and vape shop ordinance until after you've concluded the affordable housing matters, and give that separate attention. So we'll basically be dealing with the affordable housing matters first, then we'll deal with the smoke and vape shop ordinance. Does the Township Committee have any questions?
Is it now our time to ask you questions about the ordinances and stuff, or wait for the developer to give his presentation? And
Yes,
then...
my own recommendation is wait until the developer makes the presentation, and consider also waiting until the public presents their comments, because a lot, as people speak and respond to questions, more questions will be asked, and so that and answered. Okay.
Fair enough. Thank you, Albert.
There are several representatives from the developer here, and I'll call upon Mr. Flannery to introduce his group.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz. Mr. Mayor, members of the Township Committee, and the public, for the record, my name is Peter Flannery with the law firm of Bisgayer Hoff. I represent Sterling Properties and Sun Homes. These parties are currently the contract purchaser of what is known as the Dixie-Dale Farm property here in the township. It's Lot 1 in Block 66. As many here may recall, last year the Township Committee approved a rezoning for that property to allow for 54 townhomes to be built. And in conjunction with that development, there's a requirement, as Mr. Cruz had mentioned just now, for a 24-unit affordable housing development, a rental development, to be built on a site somewhere else in the township. The township has determined that that site will be a 3.8 acre portion of the skate park municipal property. And I have here tonight with me Mr. Paul Phillips, our planner, who's going to just briefly go through the redevelopment plan up for consideration tonight, which has been prepared by the Township's professionals. Mr. Phillips?
Mr. Mayor, if I may just add one other thing, because Mr. Flannery did remind me of this, and I should point it out. This has been under discussion for a considerable period. This has been before the planning board. It was back before the planning board in the fall of 2017 when the planning board was determining whether or not the skate park was an area in need of redevelopment. So there was a public hearing before the planning board at that point. There was a referral by the planning board to the governing body that the area be declared an area in need of redevelopment, that the redevelopment criteria were met, and the Township Committee adopted the planning board's recommendation and did declare it an area in need of redevelopment. At the same time, at the end of last year, the Dixie-Dale Farm ordinance was before the Township Committee, subject to both presentations at the planning board and before this governing body, and that ordinance was adopted in December of last year. There has been, during the last year, there have been, as I indicated before, extensive discussions and negotiations under the under the supervision of the court-appointed master, resulting in the overall plan that is being presented tonight. The skate park is one component of that 24 units.
Thank you, Albert.
Trying to figure out the best way to position this. I want the public to see. Maybe I can turn it so the committee.
A quick glance and then.
Back to the public.
Just, the Township Committee has seen this. These renderings and drawing are part of the redevelopment plan. So there's nothing that you'll be referring to or pointing out that is not already included in the redevelopment plan.
That is correct.
Let me know when you're ready,
All right.
because you're going to have to be fast. So, thank you. By way of introduction, my name is Paul Phillips. I'm a planner, professional planner in New Jersey, and a principal in the firm of Phillips Price. To start, let me emphasize that the redevelopment plan that we're going to discuss this evening was actually prepared by your consultant, Mr. Frank Banish. My firm obviously had interaction and worked with Mr. Banish on the plan, but you'll see that his name, and he deserves the credit for the plan per se. Actually, my partner, Richard Price, was the person from my firm that did the that worked with Frank on the plan. And unfortunately, neither Frank nor Richard can be here this evening, so the charge has fallen to me. The good news is that I'm familiar with the plan. I also am very familiar with the redevelopment process in New Jersey and have prepared numerous redevelopment plans for municipalities throughout the state, including a number of other municipalities in Morris County. So with that preamble, the redevelopment plan encompasses a 3.8 acre portion of what is the total 15.7 acre Chatham-owned skate park, DPW and police department site. You can see it's sort of from the exhibit that's up, this is for the public, that basically delineates the 3.8 acres that we're referring to as the skate park site within the larger township-owned site. And while the larger site is part of the area that was designated in terms of redevelopment, it is only the 3.8 acre skate park site that is part and parcel of this particular redevelopment plan, and the remaining facilities will basically stay as is. The plan basically, if we can go to the plan exhibit, calls for essentially two-story buildings, which would comprise, as you heard from Mr. Cruz, a total of 24 dwelling units. They would be affordable to low and moderate income households. There's a surface parking area with a total of 36 spaces, as you could see, closer to Southern Boulevard, that goes hand in hand with those affordable units. The project will actually have a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units, and all of the units in the project will be deed restricted for low and moderate income occupancy for a period of 30 years. The plan, and we may have some exhibits, Peter, but in the plan, and I'm sure the governing body has seen this, there's an illustrative concept plan which is before you. There's also illustrative or conceptual floor plans. I don't know if we have that, and there are some conceptual elevations. And again, this is just conceptual. Yeah. But they, for illustrative purposes, were included in the redevelopment plan itself, just to give some indication as to the form, the massing, and the articulation of the building and materials, roof lines, and so on. They're not colored. We haven't gotten to the level of all the detailing, but it was really meant to give the township some indication of what these buildings would look like. As Mr. Cruz indicated, interestingly, the development of affordable housing has actually been long envisioned for the site. He had indicated that the property has been, and in fact, I think as we sit and stand here this evening, is currently zoned for affordable housing within an AH district. As Mr. Cruz indicated, this site is part of the township's plan to meet its third round obligation, and this site would effectively serve as the affordable housing component of the townhouse development that has been referred to as the Dixie-Dale project, which will encompass up to, I believe, a total of 54 market rate townhouses. Now, the plan itself sets forth a detailed set of standards regulating principally use, basically allowing for the multifamily affordable use, allowing for appropriate accessory uses to that multifamily use, but also includes bulk and development standards, such as the maximum number of units, which are set at 24, the building heights, which are set at a maximum of 2 stories. Remember, looking at the elevation, 2 stories and 35 feet in height. There are building and lot coverage requirements in the redevelopment plan, and they are 15% and 30% respectively. And if you just understand those figures, it's a fairly low density in terms of the building coverage, and certainly the impervious coverage being only 30%, which means the remainder 70% is essentially green space or pervious coverage. There are also setback requirements, basically your typical front, rear, and side yard setback of buildings, and a requirement with regard to the number of parking spaces on a per unit basis. There are also a number of other building and site design requirements that are really intended to ensure that the buildings are sort of appropriately located and attractively designed. Other requirements for landscaping, lighting, signage, driveway, parking, all the kind of things which go towards what goes into a redevelopment plan, which is typically more detailed than conventional zoning. You can basically get into these kind of design and other requirements. And as I mentioned, there are some architectural and building materials standards as well, again, intended to ensure that you have a aesthetically pleasing buildings on this site. I would also add, for the record, since I have prepared numerous redevelopment plans on behalf of municipal clients in the state, that the plan before you meets all of the statutory requirements for a redevelopment plan as set forth in the state's local redevelopment and housing law, which is the enabling statute for redevelopment in the state of New Jersey. As Mr. Cruz indicated, the redevelopment plan has determined to be not inconsistent with the master plan, and that was determined by the planning board recently on referral from the governing body. This redevelopment plan is ultimately, if adopted, will supersede that AH, the current zoning of the property. In fact, the current age zoning of the entire 15.7 acre redevelopment area will be repealed in concert with the redevelopment plan if it is adopted. And as part of the redevelopment plan adoption and repeal of that age zoning, an amendment to the zoning map will also occur, and the location and the boundaries of this 3.8 acre site will basically be delineated on the zoning map. Lastly, the development of the 24 units will be designed and constructed at the sole cost of the designated redeveloper of the property. The redeveloper will also be responsible for the demolition of the skate park at no cost to the township. Assuming this redevelopment plan gets adopted following that action, the redeveloper will be designated. The township will enter into a redevelopment agreement with the developer. And lastly, if all that takes place, the developer will basically be required to appear before the planning board and have to seek the preliminary and final approvals, just like any other site plan under conventional zoning. So I think that gives you sort of a broad overview of the plan itself and what's in it. It's a fairly lengthy document. It's probably about 30 pages, but I think that gives you an indication and, again, an overview of the plan.
Mr. Mayor, I just asked Mr. Price to address the amendment to the Dixie-Dale ordinance very briefly, the three components of it, the building height calculation, the enhanced buffering, and the coupling of the phasing of the market to affordable units.
I can answer the last part, Mr. Cruz, which has to do with the coupling or the linkage. With regard to the phasing, and my understanding is that is part of the negotiations of part of the redevelopment agreement, but there will be a linkage so that basically the affordable units are going to be built in conjunction with the market rate units at Dixie-Dale. I'm not, quite frankly, Mr. Cruz, familiar with the ordinance per se on Dixie-Dale. That wasn't part of my charge, but if anyone else from our team can answer that.
No, that's
yeah.
fine, Mr. Mayor. I'll address that and basically repeat what I said a moment ago. And I am remiss. Mr. Banish did ask me to extend his apologies to you. Unfortunately, he had a scheduling conflict tonight that he could not be here. So he asked the developer to make this presentation, which would be normally what Mr. Banish would propose. As I said to you a moment ago, the Dixie-Dale ordinance was adopted back in the end of last year, December of last year. And in the interim period, as the development or the design of that property has proceeded, two things came to light because of the topography on the property. The traditional height calculation of a building really would not be applicable here. So there's a specific definition that applies to this area. Because of that, the township professional, specifically the township engineer, was concerned about the view from the street. So in order to offset any visibility from the street as a result of the new height calculation, Mr. Rushke, in conjunction with Mr. Banish, put forth a series of standards for buffering or perimeter buffering, which is really enhanced landscaping, for the lack of a better term. That is the two of the three components, and the third component is coupling the two. So at this point, if you want to open it to the public, and again, as I stated, you would be having comments on both the redevelopment plan and the amendment to the Dixie-Dale ordinance. Obviously, we're all prepared to answer any questions that you may have or the public.
Very good. So public first, then committee, or committee, then
Yes,
public?
yes.
Okay. So if you'd like to come forward, please come to the microphone. Please state your name and address for the record. We ask that you please limit your comments to 3 minutes if possible, given the number of folks who likely are here to speak tonight.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Vicentini. I'm from 7 Glenmere Drive. I'm here to tell the committee that my family uses and loves the skate park, and that I hope that you can find a way and have the developer pay to relocate it if there's an available space, possibly at the site we are at now, municipal building. My kids actually don't skateboard. They ride their scooters. I have a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old. And we go on weekends, and my husband and I enjoy sitting on the park bench and talking while our kids are contained in that area and getting some outdoor time and some exercise. As I listened tonight about the plans for Dixie-Dale, I have some more questions that I just wanted to voice, and I think the citizens would like some clarification as to why, given these requirements for affordable units, why are we not having the Dixie-Dale location offer more affordable units as a way of meeting those needs? I think our citizens would appreciate some clarification on that point. And it seems that a lot of this deal from the outside is in the favor of the developer, and would like to know that the needs of our citizens are being met as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. So, Albert, had a similar question for folks. 54 units being built at Dixie-Dale. Could you explain for folks, if it weren't 54, what the actual potential for the number of units would be there?
Well, two things. Typically, you have an enhanced bonus, a density bonus, meaning you build a lot more units than you would under the normal circumstances. Typically, if you have an inclusionary development, meaning a development that is both affordable and market rate units, if it's a rental development, it's a 15% set aside. If it's a for sale development, it's 20% set aside. In this particular case, as was mentioned, there will be 54 units at Dixie-Dale. However, this developer has agreed to build 24 affordable units, okay, which is much higher than either 15 or 20%. It is a 32% set aside. So the developer is going, at least in my judgment, well and above what the normal developer would be. And on the other side at Dixie-Dale, the density being built there is much less than what would occur in a typical inclusionary development. So you have a good balance here of being able to make Dixie-Dale an open area, a lot of green space. None of those plans are before the Township Committee because they were before the Planning Board last year and before the Township Committee last year. But there is a lot of green space at Dixie-Dale, and as I indicated, the developer has approximately a 32% set aside here, much higher than your typical development. Arguably, if the township did not resolve this matter and face the builder's remedy lawsuit, it could be facing as many as 12 units to an acre at Dixie-Dale. So it is considerable, and Dixie-Dale has approximately 30 some odd acres. So it is less dense, less market rate housing than you would in a typical inclusionary development, and more affordable housing. And the developer will build, will get approvals for, will build, operate, and manage the affordable units at Skate Park, all at no cost to the township. Well, that's not true. The township would contribute, and this is not unusual, would contribute the land at that portion of the skate park for the developer to build those units. 24 units, 2 buildings, and as was indicated before, the architectural and design standards were prepared to make them as compatible with the surrounding buildings, not the Public Works building or the DPW or the police building, but with some of the other buildings in that area. So there has been an attempt by the Township Committee to meet a primary obligation it has, a constitutional obligation to provide for affordable housing in Chatham Township.
Thank you, Albert. So basically 54 units versus the potential of 360 units.
Again, I'm hesitant to put that type of number out, but the potential is there for up to 12 units an acre and maybe more, in the absence of resolving this case now.
Exactly. So that 360 or so units, one can imagine the impact it would have on the infrastructure of the township, the school system of the township, versus these 54 units, which are, as we have discussed over the past 2 years when the developer first came here, high-end townhouses, presumably more geared towards empty nesters, folks who probably will not have children in the school system itself.
So I respectfully disagree. This is not bending over for the developer. The developer has come forward with viable plans and done more than your typical developer would do, and certainly more than a developer would do in the face of a builder's remedy lawsuit.
And if I may, just before you do, if I may add, from the outset of this process, when the skate park site was identified as a potential site for affordable housing development, because it had already been zoned for affordable housing, and Mr. Cruz mentioned at least 20 years, it's actually more like 30 years. It's been zoned for affordable housing, and when the skate park was constructed, it was known at that time that the skate park may have a limited lifespan due to the ongoing obligation to provide affordable housing. So, but to get to the second part of your question, the committee also made a commitment publicly a number of times to seek an alternate site to relocate the park, and that commitment is still there. We are actively engaged in discussions about possibly relocating the equipment to another site. I can't tell you where that is because it's sensitive negotiations, but that is something that we are actively pursuing, and I'm guessing that the majority of people here tonight are more interested in that than they are in affordable housing. But I would like to also say something about affordable housing as to what it is and what it is not. It is not housing for homeless people or for people that are on welfare, so-called Section 8 housing that people commonly think of as housing projects, HUD and all that stuff. It's not what it is. It's affordable housing for working people whose incomes are low or moderate. And those are not, like $10,000 a year. You have to actually have an income, demonstrate an ability to pay rent, pass a credit check, and all of those kinds of things. And frankly, a number of the young people in this room someday will qualify when they get their first jobs out of college for affordable housing somewhere, because typically their incomes will be in the range that these units are intended to satisfy. So I don't want to pontificate on it, but we are going to actively try to save the park and put it somewhere else.
Thank you, Tom.
Am I allowed to follow up or go to the next?
Quick follow-up.
Sure, just curious, did we look to any builders to develop the skate park separately, and because why are they married together?
They're married together because the developer came forward with a proposal that fit into what we were trying to accomplish to settle the litigation with the Fair Share Housing Center. And that was that in exchange for some change of the zoning at the Dixie Dale property to allow additional density over what was presently in place. In return for that, we will help you satisfy your affordable housing obligation by building and owning and operating rental units for you at that site. So that's how it came about. We were approached. It was a marriage that worked for both parties. It helps us in a big way at essentially no cost other than land which had already been set aside for affordable housing some 30 years ago.
Hi, good evening. My name is Sharon Roche. I live on Green Village Road. So obviously I'm here also to talk about the skate park. I have attended most meetings where I know that you guys are talking about it. So I know that previously we've talked about, or I've asked about maintaining the skate park. I thought that the plan was to build one building for affordable housing, but now I'm seeing that it's two. So I think that's a change from last I was here. And now I understand that that impacts the skate park, which I know that you guys had discussed hoping to keep it where it was. So now I know, I'm very hopeful that you said you're looking for a site to relocate it, because I think that is so critical for our kids. Obviously, we don't want to lose this really valuable resource for our community and for our children. So a little bit of history. I did not grow up here, but I did spend a lot of time both on a skateboard and around skateboarders. So I know how committed these kids are to this sport and how steadfast they will work toward making this happen. So while I didn't grow up here, my husband did. So his family has been in Chatham for over 40 years. So they know Chatham pre-skate park and now with the skate park. And so he and I have had some very lengthy discussions about what it was like before, for the kids, for the adults, and how important it is to have this resource for our kids. So I do just want to outline some of the things that we've come up with as benefits for the skate park. So number one, skate parks reduce illicit behavior. Providing designated spaces for positive activities is the best way to curb unlawful behavior among youth. When youth have nothing to do and nowhere to go, that's when they get into trouble. So in a 2009 law enforcement study that surveyed towns with skate parks, 90% of surveyed officers saw the skate park as an asset in their community, citing that it felt that it gave the kids something to do, especially the at-risk youth. In this study, 40% of officers noticed a decrease in overall youth crime since the skate park opened. Research out of the University of North Carolina in 2006 found that skateboarding is among the activities that might help keep children out of trouble. Okay, next. Skateboards provide a safe environment for skateboarding. So the majority of skateboarding injuries happen outside of skate parks. The most common injuries are falls due to surface irregularities and collisions with motor vehicles or pedestrians. Skateboarding is going to happen whether skate parks exist or not. So the best way to keep youth safe is to provide them access to safe, designated spaces to pursue their activity. So an article from 2013 stated that in 2012, 30 skateboarders lost their lives. All 30 deaths occurred in a roadway. 24 out of the 30 skateboarders listed were struck by a vehicle. We don't want that to be our kids. We want our kids to have a place to go where they can be safe. Skate parks also reduce damage to private property. So if your town doesn't have a skate park, it is one. Without designated skate parks, skateboarders will use any and all terrain in their community. This often includes private properties of homes and businesses, as well as public spaces. We know that the metal axles underneath skateboards can destroy the concrete, can chip the paint. We know it's very costly. They use wax to wax the curbs so that they can slide on it. We don't want that everywhere around town. My husband recalls what it was like before. And with that, if we don't have a skate park, we're going to have to increase policing because they're going to be getting a lot of nuisance calls. They want to have to kick people out of where they're skateboarding. We don't want that because not only does it cost us more to have increased policing, but it also develops an adversarial relationship between the kids and the police. I've seen that firsthand, I've lived it, and I know how serious it is. It has a lifelong impact. So I hope that we can have a place where these kids can go, that they're not going to be getting in trouble, that they're not going to be getting tickets, that they're not going to be getting into these clashes with law enforcement. That law enforcement study from 2009 cited an 85% decrease in complaint calls from business and property owners after they installed the skate park. Okay. Skateboarding also has significant physical and mental health benefits. We know participating in sports helps keep you healthy and fit, gets the kids off the couch, keeps them in shape. We know that not all kids enjoy team sports, so we need to give them a way to be able to participate in the sport that's right for them. It gives them a place to build camaraderie with their peers. It helps them to socialize with kids with similar interests. This is really important in this day and age. We don't want them in their house looking at a screen. We want them outside being physical. Skateboarding combines extreme physical exertion with precise muscle coordination and balance. The complexity of performing tricks on a skateboard improves brain function at a fundamental level and stimulates new cell growth in the brain. So, in case you didn't know, skateboarding is going to be in the 2020 Olympics. So it is not a sport that should be stigmatized anymore. It is a real sport, and these kids need to have a place to do it in this town. We give them soccer fields, baseball fields, basketball courts. We have all of these resources for kids, but we're missing, if we lose the skate park, we'll be leaving out these kids who need it. So I moved here from a nearby town who had a ton of resources for their kids. They had camps, they had enrichment activities, and I have to tell you, I was super excited to move here, number one, because I was by a skate park and I know how important it is, but also because of what a great reputation this town has. I have to admit, I've been a little bit disappointed with the resources that have been available for my kids, at least. The SBS camp was canceled, the Colony tennis camp canceled. There aren't adult fitness classes like they were in the town where I came from. I know that after Sandy, the paddle courts were damaged, they haven't been replaced. And a lot of the sports in town are now managed as clubs by parent volunteers. So, I mean, it's just a list of things that I feel like our town is missing. We can't keep losing things that are important for our kids and for our families. That's why we're here. So we need to make sure that we're reinvesting in our families, in our youth, and in what we need. So I just want to sum it up by saying skateboarding is the answer for a lot of kids. It's fun. They can do it on their own terms. It doesn't require a coach or a team. It's something that they can do at their own pace. And I sincerely hope that we can work together to find a solution that will work for all of us. Please, for our kids and our families, please relocate that skate park. Thank you.
I appreciate everyone coming out tonight, but if we could try to keep our remarks succinct as much as possible. We want to hear everything you have to say. There's a long line of folks here tonight.
Understood. I timed myself today,
Oh, great.
so I think I'm good. My name is Laura Sedlak. I live in Madison, actually, 5 Sampson Avenue, for the record. I'm here to express my support for rebuilding the skate park or relocating the skate park to a new location. You might wonder why someone from Madison is here to speak about the skate park. I don't have kids, and I've never been able to go very far on a skateboard without falling. But I grew up in Chatham. I went to Chatham Public Schools, K through 12, class of 2001. I was in high school when the skate park was built, and it was my classmates, my friends, their parents, and other generous adults that spearheaded the effort. I saw firsthand the change it made in people's lives. I'm here to tell you a little bit about that history, and also to talk about the reasons why a town like Chatham might want a skate park to begin with. As Sharon said, it is commonly said that if your town doesn't have a skate park, then it is a skate park. And that is how I remember Chatham. I remember skaters finding every rail, every hill, and every flight of stairs they could find to practice their skills. After school, I remember skaters flipping their boards at CVS, ShopRite, the library, the apartments near Green Village, Hickory Tree Plaza, the post office, the gazebo, the train station, the middle school, and Southern Boulevard School. As a high school student, I did not appreciate that my friends were skating in potentially unsafe areas. Now, as an adult, I understand that the majority of skateboarding deaths happen in incidents that involve motor vehicles. Skate parks virtually eliminate this risk. I also saw business owners yell at my friends for skating on their property. I didn't understand why at the time. Now, as a lawyer, I get it. But is skateboarding inherently wrong? No, of course not. It's one of the fastest growing sports in America. It's also one of the safest sports. And yet, when we criminalize it, we stigmatize good kids that are enjoying a healthy activity outdoors that gives them exercise away from screens. The more I learn about skateboarding, the more I appreciate how great of an activity it is. Skateboarders learn independent thinking skills and learn how to achieve self-directed goals. They don't, in most cases, have organized practices. They have to figure it out on their own. Skateboarders individually decide what trick they want to learn, and they have to figure out how to learn it. There's no coach there to explain it. They go online, they ask other people, they might be talking to strangers at the park, making new friends, they experiment, and when they achieve that goal, they get that rewarding feeling that drives all of us to keep working hard at the things we care about. That's what we want our kids to experience. Today, when I drive by the skate park, I not only feel proud of my friends and their families for building it, but I also feel thankful that kids who grew up in Chatham today are not going to be stigmatized or labeled just for being skateboarders. I would be disappointed if Chatham demolishes the skate park without rebuilding it somewhere else in town. Finally, I just want to note that as someone who is now looking for a home to buy, Chatham's good schools are not enough of a selling point anymore, not in these changing market conditions. There are good schools in other towns too. Recreational facilities and activities are also important to homebuyers. I want my future children to have good teachers, but I also want them to be able to pursue their interests outside of school. If Chatham continues the trend of eliminating recreational activities, I hope you understand that the property values will be impacted. Thank you.
Hi, I'm April Kabash. I live at 60 Watchung Avenue. One of the things that makes Chatham a great place to live are the many, many opportunities that we have here and that our kids have here. Our kids get the chance to play every sport imaginable, from soccer to lacrosse to football to fencing, which is something a lot of other towns don't offer. But not everyone plays a team sport. For some kids, like mine, skateboarding is their sport. These kids spend hours perfecting their jumps, working on their form, and improving their skills. They learn from each other and work together to master new tricks. The skate park gives them a safe place to do this, instead of riding in parking lots or on the streets. There have been numerous studies showing the positive physical and mental benefits of skateboarding. These kids are outside in the fresh air, they're getting exercise, they're not sitting in front of a video game or sitting in front of a screen, they're interacting with other people. That's something we should be encouraging, not destroying. I hope the Township Council will keep all the kids in town in mind when you're making these decisions and find somewhere else in our great town to relocate this skate park. Thank you.
Hi.
How you doing?
My name is Ian Flannery. I live at 55 May Drive. I've lived in this town my entire life. Actually, Mr. Sullivan coached me at basketball a long time ago. I'm using it to my advantage now.
Nice.
But basically, I grew up skateboarding. I skateboarded since I was 6 years old. I was at that park pretty much every day throughout pretty much middle school and high school. It was pretty much just a way to get away from things. I mean, I was also like a rower. I played every sport you could possibly imagine. But so I mean, for that reason, obviously, I have some sort of a sentimental tie to the park itself. So relocation is a great plan for it, and I think that the other plan should be held off until the negotiations are completed so that it's not so secretive as to where it may be moved. I think that would be reasonable, and I think that's agreeable probably for most of the people here. Also, on top of that, I am a realtor. I work for Remax in Morristown, and I've noticed that we've had inventory in Chatham. It's hard enough to move as is with the taxes here. I mean, we have places here, it's $40,000 a year in taxes, places that are going for $3 million now over on Dale Drive and places along those lines. It's unbelievable. And I mean, one has to expect that if we're building affordable housing at a rapid rate now because we're coming to such a close close, and you said it was 2025, correct? It's going to have to be subsidized through taxes. And I mean, if it's so hard to move property as is, then, I mean, how is that going to affect pretty much the growth of the town when it comes to new families wanting to move in? And that concerns me when it comes to a work aspect as well. But I mean, I don't have anything written down about the statistics on it. I'm interested to learn more in how that would kind of impact both my career and my personal life, having it as a hobby, you know? So, I mean, that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Christian Cottom. I live on 140 Countryside Drive, and I've been going to Chatham Skate Park for 2 years. The park has given me a place that I've met many friends and kept myself out of trouble. When my friends and I found out that the skate park was going to be torn down forever, we were devastated. The park was originally built to provide us kids a safe place to play a recreational activity that encouraged creativity and cooperation. The park almost closed several years ago because of maintenance issues, but again, volunteers and donations kept it open. Would our community ever consider removing one of the many playgrounds which are rarely used for this type of project? Or would the community be asked to donate money to maintain a basketball court? The answer is no. Why then is our skate park any different? I understand the committee has made its decision to build on the land. The question you should be asking yourselves is where should we put the skate park so the committee can the question you should be asking yourselves is where can we move the park that has been a part of our community for longer than I've been alive. The committee has mentioned it might be time to have another town build a skate park. What right do we have to petition another town to build the park so our community can play on it? How much success would another community have in asking you the recreational needs of all children, and that includes the skate park? That is why we need to find another place in Chatham to move the park to. There are many spots this would work, such as the vacant land by Shunpike Field, which trees can be cleared on town property. I've never seen any trouble or fights in the park. There's rarely a nice day that the park is not filled with kids. A lot of kids have made a lot of memories at this park. I just hope the committee can find a way to relocate the park instead of just taking it away, something that has been nothing but positive for us here in Chatham. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Olivia, and I don't really completely understand the political housing and stuff, but all I know is that Chatham Skate Park has been a second home for me. I ride a scooter at Chatham, and I've been going for over 2 years. I've tried soccer and baseball and all that other stuff, but scootering just gives me so much more creativity. I've made so many friends and had so many experiences there that I will never forget. This place allows me to express my creativity, and I found out what I love to do at this skate park, and the thought of it closing is devastating. I do understand that there are plans to move this skate park, but maybe we can relocate it. If there's anything that people can do to relocate or keep the skate park, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks, Olivia.
Hi, I'm Amina Webb. I'm actually a New Vernon resident, but we do have a house in Chatham as well. And I just want to, everybody's pretty much said everything I'm thinking, and I think I would like the committee, hopefully, to make it a priority to find another location for the skate park. My 2 girls have only just started going there, and I was a little wary. I didn't send her for the longest time. And then I finally gave in after trying soccer, basketball, horse riding, and she's found so much joy in skateboarding. We can be there 3 hours sometimes, and all I see is kids of all ages helping each other, giving each other pointers, cheering each other on, and just everything that you want your kid to do, they're doing at that park. And I just want it a priority to build a new one.
Thank you.
Everybody said everything else.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Jordan Galliano. I'm a resident of Pequannock Township, New Jersey. The reason why I'm here tonight is because for the past 3 years, I have been the owner and operator of a nonprofit organization, Pequannock, trying to get a skate park built in the Pequannock Township. And for those past 3 years that I've been involved with that, I've been involved with advocating for building more skate parks in New Jersey, fundraising to build a skate park, and educating multiple communities on the benefits of skateboarding. One statistic that individuals may have glanced over tonight is that skateboarding is one of the fastest growing sports among young women today in this country and throughout the world. So then that's allowing more social cohesion and interaction amongst skateboarding. Skateboarding used to be seen as a boys' sport. Now it's becoming more integrated with boys and girls. And when you have multiple backgrounds of individuals coming together, you get more social cohesion, understanding individuals' backgrounds, and so on and so forth. So my question regarding the skate park is, and some have asked it as well, if there has been any ideas for relocation or any site development for the project. And with my background as one of the owners and operators of a nonprofit trying to get a skate park built in Pequannock Township, we've done extensive research with doing geotechnical reports for ground surveys, areas of interest within town as long as it's socially, geologically centered within town. That way it's easily accessible for adolescents to access the park without their parents' ability to drive them. So giving kids the ability to drive or to ride their bikes or skateboard to the facility. That way it's not a burden amongst their parents. So again, I'm just here to advocate for the relocation of the skate park and to construct it. I know that there's been issues in the past with maintenance on the project since it is a prefabricated facility. When I mean prefabricated, it's a steel superstructure and then applied with wood surfacing. And over time, the wood rots, the metal rusts, and the sheet metal at the base of the ramps dig into the ground, thus causing divots and tripping hazards for the facility. One of the main attractions for skate parks nowadays is concrete skate parks. Understandably so, that the initial cost to build a concrete skate park is pretty astronomical, but maintenance in the long run for a facility like this is nothing compared to all the maintenance on any of the fields in town. We've done numbers, and for the size of the skate park that we're looking for in Pequannock, a 6,500 square foot facility requires no more than $750 of maintenance per year. No more. It could be $750 for 5 years worth of maintenance or no maintenance at all for any years. So when it's looking at a fiscal responsibility for a facility, this is probably one of the most fiscally responsible facilities to look into. So again, I'm just an advocate. I've been skateboarding for my whole life. I'm 25, started when I was 5, doing it for 20 years. And I think it's one of the best activities that young individuals can do to learn determination, perseverance, life goals, and to see the world in a different lens. So thank you very much.
Question for you.
Yes.
You said 65,000 square foot park?
6,500.
6,500.
Yes.
What is it? It's all concrete?
All concrete.
What does that typically cost to build?
So generally within the state of New Jersey, there's different issues regarding other states. So within New Jersey and New York, I believe you have to deal with prevailing wage costs. So when you're building a facility that is municipally funded or state or federally funded, you have to serve the highest amount for constructing a project. Now, I think it's, for our facility, it's like $135,000 is just for labor for the project. So that's one of the main things that you cannot avoid when doing a project like this. But then when it comes to doing in-kind donations, like Pequannock, we got, I believe the estimated value of the granite that we got was $50,000 for granite that was used on Nike SB, which is the division of Nike shoes, to build a skate park on a barge in 2013 that was deconstructed and put in storage, and we acquired those to be implemented into the skate park. So that saved us quite a few $1,000s to build. So when also doing stuff like this to raise money, you never know what individuals or businesses in town would want to make a contribution and help alleviate the burden on the township when it comes to paying for a facility like this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Hi, my name is Melissa Kasilniak. I live at 257 Washington Avenue, and I guess I'll be piggybacking a little bit on what he was just talking about. And it's unfortunate that the skate park has to be moved, but I think this is actually a really great opportunity because skateboard parks nowadays are modernized and they're concrete. And we have an advocacy group that's working alongside the Tony Hawk Foundation, who would work with us every step of the way in building a new modernized skate park, which I think would just be really fantastic for the town. And as far as cost, I believe it's between $40 and $60 per square foot for a concrete skate park. And then they say that it should be between 6,000 to 10,000 square feet is what you would want it to be. So that's that. And basically, I know a lot of people have talked about a lot of things, but based on everything that everyone has discussed here, is there any reservations that the committee has on moving forward to find a new location for a new skate park?
Well, I think as our administrator articulated earlier, and as we've articulated from the get-go, the intention was to find a place for a skate park to relocate it. Given the fact, Tom has been speaking and negotiating and looking for places, and we expect to have, hopefully, further information on this in the coming months.
Gotcha. Would it be possible for you to work with our advocacy group? Maybe we could work together to find a location?
If you leave me your contact information, I'll certainly see if and when we can bring you in on that process.
Okay, great.
I'm just not at liberty right now. It's in a very early stages, and I don't want to jeopardize it.
Sure.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
But if I may, I would like to just comment on the types of parks.
Yes.
Because I came here in 2000, and the night that I was sworn in, I met Suzanne Bonamo and Mary Rohi out in the hallway. They were waiting for me because I, in my previous employment, had built the first skate park, municipal skate park in the state of New Jersey in the city of Brigantine. And that was a concrete type of park. It's a bowl with a flat surface around it and some props. This park was designed by the users. There was input from the community and from the kids who were the skaters at the time. They were all surveyed about what kinds of things they wanted, and it was a result really of that interaction with them that led to the design with the above ground wooden ramps and quarter pipes. We had to negotiate with the insurance, the joint insurance fund, over the limit of height and things like that for safety reasons. But we have what we have because that's what people wanted at that time.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good thing too that they did it that way, knowing that it was going to have to be relocated. If they put in a, beautiful concrete skate park, knowing that it would have to be demolished, that would not be good. So, probably the best thing for that time.
I'll also tell you that at a recent trip that several of us took down to the New Jersey League of Municipalities, there were thousands of vendors there, many of whom specialize in recreational equipment, playground equipment, public facilities like that, and we were able to make some contacts in this specific regard, because you can't underestimate the value of it. Obviously, we have a room full of people here who care very sincerely of it. I don't think we have any reservations, certainly, about pursuing something as worthwhile as it's been, and we've been pursuing it since we understood that at some point there was going to be an end to the present location.
Yeah, so that's great, and I know the community is willing to help out as much as we can and fundraise.
Absolutely, and the facts and figures are extremely helpful.
Yeah.
When you know folks have done some research, they're going to come into a situation like this with background, with already having educated themselves to educate the community. I think it's fabulous.
Yeah, and the Tony Hawk Foundation is absolutely phenomenal.
He was on TV today. I missed him.
Yeah.
Darn, I think he's on.
Yeah, no, they're fantastic. So, okay,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You can move it.
My name is Grace Packy, and I'm from Green Village, and me and my friend always go skating there, and I just I'm just saying, can you try and relocate the skate park?
Thank you, Grace.
Good evening. I'm Kyle Chappell, live on 16 Overlook Road in the Township. Appreciate everybody coming out to support the skate park tonight. Got 3 young kids. They're at the skate park every nice day, weekends and weekdays. I just don't understand why the skate park and the buildings, I'm sure it's debatable whether we need the housing or how the housing has to go in, but why they are so combined. Why can't they be 2 separate issues? The housing is up for debate. Sounds like we need it. Sounds like it's necessary. But why, in the location, I understand it needs to go there. The skate park may need to go because that was a temporary structure on the land. But why not relocate a resource that the community values and uses so much? Do we have a budget for how much it may cost to relocate the skate park? No idea?
No, not
So
at...
you guys haven't
not
looked
at this
seriously
point.
at relocating
No,
it?
that's not a fair thing for you to say.
maybe accurate,
The actual, there's 2 different ways you relocate a park. One is you pick up the existing equipment and put it somewhere else, or you relocate by building a new one at a different location.
Okay.
So I don't have a budget for either one of those things, but
So
we're
the
looking
reason-
at all
right, but
options.
the reason I ask is, it seems like we're giving a lot of benefits to the developers and the builders. Why
No,
not ask them or put them on the hook for relocation?
Well, they're on the hook for demolition. We have not discussed with them the
Well, I'm
possibility
sure they're
of...
going to want that land, so they're going to be happy to demo, but why not put them for a relocation?
Well, at this point, I'm not going to negotiate with you and the developer in public.
Sure.
So I think that's a good point that you've made. Certainly will be considered. I think that they are separate.
But yet you try to combine them tonight.
No, we haven't combined anything. What was presented is a redevelopment plan for the skate park.
Sure.
Okay. A question was asked early on, why does this site now have this configuration? Before it was larger, before it had 1 building instead of 2 buildings, and the answer is twofold to that. As you know, this property backs onto the Great Swamp. There are wetlands on the property. This summer, in June of this year, the Department of Environmental Protection issued a letter of interpretation showing where the limits of the wetlands were. Those limits were much more constrictive or conservative than were originally thought. So that was one change that dictated the change in the site. The second is that the Township Committee was mindful of the aesthetics of these buildings. And discussion was had with the developer to build 2 buildings, which the developer is doing to accommodate the request of the township on the aesthetics. The developer would have preferred to build 1 building. But in order to make this a viable development consistent with the surrounding neighborhood, it decided to build 2 buildings, lower height, to fit better with the community. So they are only joined because this has been an affordable housing site, as I was corrected, for 30 years. And now, because of the circumstances beyond the control of the township, the developer, the courts have said, you've got to move forward
Sure.
and develop viable plans.
Right.
And so that is the result of external factors that this township committee, and in fact, no municipality has control over. If you want protection from a builder's remedy lawsuit
Sure.
and avoid high-density housing, then you have to participate in the process
Yeah, and I don't
come
think
to
I'm...
a solution.
I
So
don't think anybody here is arguing that fact tonight. It sounds like the housing is necessary for multiple
it's a
different reasons.
constitutional requirement that municipalities
Sounds like it's been
provide
debated for
realistic
40
development
plus years, but
potential.
anyway. The bottom line is the skate park is a great resource for our youth and for everyone in the town. I think everyone here greatly appreciates the facility. I think that it would be a great move, a great step for to work together to try to get an alternate site and to work together with the developer. Maybe we don't have to pony up all the money. Maybe we do some. Maybe they do some. Work together to get an alternate site and a new park. I think that would be a good move. So thanks.
Kyle.
Hi, My name is CJ Walsh from Farm Park, New Jersey. I live on Afton Drive. And first let me say that I've been going to the skate park for at least 2 years. I've met so many friends at this skate park, and I think it is definitely appropriate that we relocate the skate park close. And in my town, we have a lot of open space. I know there's a bunch of different parks for little kids, and there's a lot of open space in the back part of my town. So I think it's very appropriate to confront my town mayor, Farm Park. And like they all said, they're all been going here for so long, and it needs to be, like, I understand that we're relocating this park, but everyone, I know a lot of people here, and I know that they all have been traveling some people here have been traveling for 20 minutes, some people have been like 15 minutes away. I'm 2 towns over, and it's been an easy commute. I've been coming here for 2 years, almost every day of my life, and I've had ups and downs there. It's kept me out of trouble, and I feel that we need to relocate this skate park as soon as possible. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Stuart Carr. I'm at 3 Crestwood Drive in Chatham Township. I wanted to get one little nuance from Mr. Chiccarone. This preliminary negotiation, is that for a site in Chatham Township or somewhere in the greater Chatham Township area, not necessarily including Chatham Township?
Stu, I love these little cat and mouse games you like to
Not
play,
cat
but
and
I'm
mouse,
not going to answer that question.
Answer the question.
I'm not going to answer that question.
You're not going to answer
When I
it.
tell you that I'm not in a position to talk about it, I'm not in a position to talk about it.
And the reason I'm asking that question is because it seems there are a lot of people from Chatham Township who are interested in a site in Chatham Township. And the board, was, I think, enthusiastically making that comment. But then in a couple meetings before, Mr. Chiccarone said basically, well, we've had our time in Chatham Township. Maybe it's some other town's chance to, take over the reins now of the regional skate park. So I guess I'd just like to get a handle as to whether we're talking about at least, the goal of having a site in Chatham Township proper or someplace else for purposes of this relocation.
All options are on the table.
Okay,
As
so
you
it's not
well know,
necessarily
we have
Chatham
a
Township,
joint recreation program, as you well know.
With Chatham Township and Chatham Borough.
We have a joint school, we have a joint library, we have a joint recreation program. All options are on the table, Stuart.
Within Chatham Township and Chatham Borough, then?
Not going to answer any more questions.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
we don't know where it's going to
Thanks,
go.
Stuart.
Okay. So next question is, the idea of 24 affordable units here, was there any thought to the idea of repurposing existing housing stock? We've asked this question before. And talk to the developer about the money you would have spent on 24 units at the Chatham Skate Park area and purchase 24 units somewhere else of existing units as they come onto the market, and then subsidize the purchase of those units with the monies from the developer who was gracious enough to put 24 units in the affordable housing component at the skate park, and then keep the skate park where it is, keep the population 24 units lower than otherwise would have been, and repurpose existing housing stock, at least find out what the math is on that. Was that considered at all as part of this process?
Yes, and in fact, it was done. That is precisely what occurred at Vernon Grove. Those affordability controls expired in September of 2016. The Township Committee undertook negotiations with the Vernon Grove Condominium Association and had those affordability controls extended for 30 years until the year 2046. There is an annual payment that is being made for that. And so in this fashion, the township preserves 72 units that would have gone on the market as affordable units. So that is a key component of it. So typically what happens at the end of a 30-year period, the restricted housing, the restricted affordable housing is no longer restricted and becomes a market rate unit. Here, the township was able to continue those restrictions for 30 years, and so that is a little more than a third of the township's plan. So the township's overall obligation is 200, and 72 units of that 200 is fulfilled by Vernon Grove. So the answer to your question is yes, it was looked at. And the township has to be judicious in terms of how it proceeds forward.
Very nice. I was asking about the 24 units and the economics of 24 additional. So 72 of Vernon Grove, thank you for doing that. That is definitely appreciated. But 24 more. So take that great thesis and that great idea and that great template and move it 24 more. Was that considered specifically, and what was the math behind that, and why did you choose to go to skate park instead of more Vernon Grove, more Chatham Glen, more Chatham Hill Apartments, wherever, for that 24 units, and then preserve the site?
One of the important things to keep in mind here, Stuart, it was in Mr. Cruz's presentation that even with this plan, the RDP that we wound up with and negotiated a settlement with the Fair Share Housing Center leaves us with unmet need of over 150 units. If we did not embark on this course, you can bet $1 to a donut that the Fair Share Housing Center would have been making demands that we develop the affordable housing zone that has existed for over 30 years. There was simply no escaping that in a realistic attempt to settle this litigation. So even if we did all the other things you're talking about and did 24 other units, we buy 24 single-family homes and we subsidize them and make them affordable housing units, you'd still be doing something at that site.
Well, if the requirement is 24 units,
The
should be
requirement under
irrespective-
the present agreement is for 200 units, and we've demonstrated the math as to how we get to satisfying that in this agreement. But that leaves unmet need of 155 that's going to follow us into the future. And if you have a parcel of property that is available, that's part of realistic development opportunity, you're going to have to do it.
The decision to use the the skate park for affordable housing, as I indicated, was made a long time ago.
30 years ago.
Not made by this committee, not made by a prior committee, but at the inception of affordable housing plans in New Jersey. So what I'm saying to you is that this plan utilizes existing resources and utilizes them in a way that the town is not overdeveloped.
I see. Now, the other question related to that, my understanding from seeing this for the first time here, it's 24 plus 72, so there's 96 incremental units that are necessary between to maintain the 2025 mandate, or the 2025 limitation. Is that right? 72 plus 24.
Yes.
Yes, okay. So 96 units, let's call that 100 units. Conceivably, you could go out and borrow $40 to $50 million, $400 to $500,000 a unit. Go out, buy those units, then sell them for half the price to affordable housing types, say for 20 to 25 million. Then there'd be 20 to 25 million dollars left for the township taxpayers to subsidize. Go out, borrow 20 or 25 million dollars, and get it done that way. Real money, big cost. The flip to that, of course, is we say we're going to have 72 units new, which means that if we're going to do a 20% set aside, we're talking 300 new units on this yet unidentified site.
No, this is not 300 units. This is 74 affordable units. It's 100% affordable housing development sponsored by the municipality.
Okay.
That was...
So it won't be 20%, it'll be 74 flat.
No.
Okay.
It is when you have the 20% set aside for market rate units or 15% for rental, it's when you have a mixed inclusionary development where the development has higher numbers to sustain the affordable units. So here, there are no market units associated with those 74 units.
Very nice. So in that...
74 housing units, period.
Understood. In that
plus
discussion...
bonus credits of 26.
Point taken. Understood. In that discussion, is there an active discussion internally about purchasing existing housing stock with this affordable housing person or this affordable housing group to get to the 74, as opposed to having a new site with 74 new units in town, times 2 or 3 people per unit. Is that part of the discussion at this point?
I'm going to give you the same answer that I just gave you. We have an obligation to provide an opportunity for the realistic development of 200 units and an unmet need of 155 moving into the future that's going to trail with us. If there is land available that would sustain that kind of development, there would be an obligation on the part of the township to allow it. So I don't mean to get combative with you, Stu, but we've told you before, we have explored every avenue, we have discussed every tool that's available to provide opportunity for realistic development. And I don't think we've left any stones unturned.
Well, conceptually,
the idea of buying 24 single-family homes and converting them is just not realistic.
I'm sorry, I'll come back. Well, let me just...
one last one, then you go back in the queue.
One last one, I'll go back. Actually, I'll go back in the queue.
Thank you.
All right, hey, Kyle Chappell again. I just forgot to ask, how can I and how can the community follow along as you guys go through the process of seeking alternate locations for the skate park? Like, what's the avenue for kind of the checks and balances of this?
Well, it's an open-ended invitation to anybody that knows of a site that would accommodate the skate park. So you're more than welcome to make suggestions. We're doing our own homework looking, but if you know of a property that you think works, let us know.
I mean, sure. I mean, we have multiple parks around town. They all have some green space, Why couldn't we select one of those parks and do that? Evidently, I mean, I have lots of ideas for where they could go, but really, I mean, I think we should be looking to you. And I'm not asking about you telling me the specific place right now, but what's the process? How can I make sure that you are looking for an alternate site? Why not? I mean, this is the forum to answer that.
No, but I'm not going to sit here and subject myself to cross-examination like we're in some kind of trial.
Can I get your word on the record that you guys are going to find an alternate site for the skate park?
We're looking.
No, you're looking, but
how
will
can you
find a
commit to
site?
something you don't know the answer to?
Just tell me you'll find a site on the record. Just say you'll find a site.
We're going to look for a site on the record.
That's not the same thing.
It is not the same thing, but I can't commit to that. And if there are no sites, and that's what I have consistently said here, as we sit here today, we do not, the Township of Chatham, control a site that would be appropriate. That's all I don't know what else I can say to you.
Okay, but I heard that the previous meeting to this, that it was off. The movement of the skate park was no longer a viable option. It was just going to be scrapped, and that was the end of it. Is that true?
At the present time, that's the plan. The plan right now is for this developer, the redeveloper, to demolish the skate park. I am engaged in discussions to move it, but I can't tell you any more than that. And if you don't believe me, that's really your problem.
Well, that's actually not. What I want to know is how can I follow along your progress?
We will continue to update residents and the
How
public
so? How
at
so?
future meetings.
So we have to come back to this meeting.
Or you can check out the
That's fine.
Facebook page. We'll keep people
This is
posted.
my first time here, so that's why I'm up here asking.
We welcome you.
So just follow
It's on
along with the
television.
meetings.
You can stay home and watch.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle.
Come back anytime.
Mr. Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
I think before you call people on a second time, we should make sure that everyone has had an opportunity to speak once if they desire, and then call someone a second time, and then at that point, public participation should end, because it really is a public comment period, and it is 1 or 2 rounds. And if people don't want to speak, then the hearing should be closed.
Fair enough. Thank you, Albert.
Hi, my name is Brian. I'm actually not from around here. I live in Montville, which is like an hour away. Fiorella. And I wanted to come out here just to show support because, I've spent some time at the skate park, and it's one of my favorites. My town actually doesn't have one, and it's pretty depressing if you ask me. I really think every town should have a skate park because it's a beautiful thing. So that's all I really have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Hi, my name is Francisco Robles. I'm not from around here. I'm from Park Ridge, New Jersey, which is approximately an hour away as well.
I'm also asking a couple questions for clarification. So, with regards to this housing project, what main values are you guys taking into consideration, and how much are you weighing them? Like, when I say values, I mean, for example, your constitutional, did you say you had a constitutional obligation to this affordable housing project?
Correct.
Correct. Now, for this okay, so you have to take this constitutional obligation. So you guys are required to have affordable housing here?
Correct.
In the township?
Every town in the state of New Jersey has an obligation.
Now, what's the proposed budget for this?
I'm sorry, I have to apologize. I don't understand your question. The proposed budget for what?
For the 20...
The developer is
Yes.
going to build it. The municipality is going to make a contribution to the developer of the land.
Of the
The
land?
municipality will no longer own the land. The developer will,
And what is the
Design-
land valued at? Has there been a, what's it called, an appraisal or?
it hasn't been built yet.
The land value of this, I guess,
Oh,
the
the
skateboard
land value. No, there has not been an appraised value of the land, correct. But it is land that is owned by the municipality. It is available for development. The municipality 30 years ago said it would build affordable housing on there or make it available to a developer to build affordable housing there.
Okay.
So this is something that is not new. It's been in the works for 30 years for this particular site. For the reasons that I expressed before, it is now becoming a reality because the courts are pushing this matter forward as they should, and every municipality has a constitutional obligation to meet their affordable housing obligation or potentially face a lawsuit.
Okay, so that's, I guess, one of the, downsides from this legal perspective of what could happen if you guys do not pursue this.
Yes, a builder's remedy lawsuit is a downside, and yes, what you would be looking at is potentially 12 units to an acre times 30 acres.
Okay. Now, for what's your name again?
No,
Peter?
you direct your comments to the Township Committee, Mr. Chickarone, or myself.
Okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to know what's the name of this company that is helping to develop and plan this supposed project?
It's Southern Boulevard Urban Renewal, LLC.
Southern Boulevard Urban Renewal LLC.
Correct.
Limited Liability Corporation. Okay. So this is a private company
Yes.
working on it on a public land, correct? So
It won't be public after the township conveys it to the private developer that is going to build something that serves a public purpose, which is affordable housing.
So I guess throwing all this, the money and the legal perspective, all that stuff aside, when I came here because, I just came here to support this skate park being still there because I started skateboarding a year ago. I used to actually wrestle. I ended up wrestling a little bit at Columbia University, but I ended up stopping. So I found this, and I see that it is not only an amazing sport, but ultimately, we are here today because we're a society. And because we are a society, we have to, all live in these communities, city-states, basically, ekalipolis, according to Plato in this Republic book that I learned at a class. But I think the ultimate values, arete, excellences, that, we should try to maintain is basically the sense of community. And in order to maintain it, you got to have these places, physical places, where people are actually coming and interacting with the people that they live with. Now, I know this is technically going off on a tangent, but if you really look around today, you see that we're all very connected to our digital devices. And many times we're not so connected physically to each other. We are not, in these communal places as much. And I think a good way to foster and cultivate an environment where people are more, I guess, just together, building on these relationships that are very fundamental to who we are as humans. I think we should maintain that. And that's ultimately, I think, what society is about. If you didn't have to necessarily worry about what are the legal liabilities, so how much does it cost? What is the proposed budget? Well, then, let's just have the skate park, you know? I don't think it's necessarily a big deal. And as long as, if there's any ways I can help you guys, or help this, I guess, this idea, just the skate park to stay in there, I will, I'll do anything I can, I guess.
Thank you, Francisco. Appreciate it.
I wasn't done, but thank you. Okay.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, this speaker was here before. If there's anyone else that would like to address the Township Committee before calling on this individual a second time, they should come forward now.
Anyone?
Seeing no one else,
Thank you.
because
Robert
this
Cruz.
is, after this and the gentleman that's in line, then the public
close
hearing
that.
will be over.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. This, just really quick, again, Jordan Galliano from Pequannock Township, New Jersey. Just kind of gauging the room and seeing public interest for this facility, and from experience that I've done with working on Pequannock, I think the next step for what I should propose, or hopefully propose to the council, and if it's willing to be accepted, is to form an ad hoc committee to this project for looking into redevelopment of, or relocation of the skate park. That way, forming an ad hoc committee gives volunteers within the community to kind of better gauge the location, what are the needs, what are the demands for this facility, and that way it's not being taken up time. Obviously, this is a very lengthy public comment section I've ever seen for an issue, which is fine. It just shows that people are concerned. But I think the next step forward for the council is to look into doing an ad hoc committee with certain individuals within the township to be representatives for this ad hoc committee to report back on this issue. So that's just my last little comment, and if anybody has any questions or concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer them for anybody after the meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Stuart Carr, 3 Crestwood Drive in Chatham Township, once again. Wanted to follow up on my comments of a moment ago. Theoretically, could the town meet its 96 unit, 72 plus 24 unit affordable housing requirement by buying existing housing stock instead of building new units? Financials aside, could that happen? Because I understood that the requirement was to bring in 96 units into the town. You don't necessarily need 96 net new units of housing in the town, repurposing existing. Is that conceptually, conceivably, potentially, theoretically
Well, the math
possible?
is not correct. The obligation that has been fixed, or that is likely to be fixed by the court, is 387 units. And we have a plan based on our realistic development potential and vacant land adjustment that provides for 200 units, or actually 228 when you count the bonuses, leaving unmet need of 155. And I'll tell you again, if you bought 76 units or 100 units, you'd have to buy 155 more units in addition to what we're doing, to satisfy our overall obligation. So conceptually, could we spend $1 bazillion and buy 300 units? Sure, I guess you could.
We have 96 units as currently negotiated. That 96 units means we need to build 96 net new units. We could not theoretically go buy a Kushner property at ShopRite and buy 96 units and fulfill it that way. Is that the answer?
As long as that 3.8 acres sits there on Southern Boulevard as our affordable housing zone, where we have not put any affordable housing in the last 35 years, we will not get a settlement with the Fair Share Housing Center. That land will be developed for affordable housing, or we will not have a settlement of the litigation. I think it's really that black and white.
That's for 24. There's 72 behind that.
It's for whatever.
But there's 24 units which has been satisfied per this negotiation here with this current developer. There's 72 more on the slides. That's a site is yet undetermined or yet unidentified, I understand? Yes. Okay, it's unidentified. could that site be a site with currently existing housing and theoretically buy the current existing housing for 72 units? Would that legally meet the requirement? That's what I've been asking. That's why we're going cat and mouse back and forth. Could we go and buy 72 units to meet the 72 unit requirement theoretically? Could that happen? Math aside.
I'm hesitant to give a lawyerly answer here, but
Give a straight answer, man.
everything is possible. Everything is, could have been, should have been. You know, there's just, is it probable? No. Is it possible? Yes.
Because this 72 is prospective. This hasn't been negotiated yet.
No,
So therefore,
no, the
there's a
70
way to do that,
The
potentially.
72 have been agreed upon, and it's 100% municipal affordable housing. That would require speaking with Fair Share Housing and the Special Master further, and determining whether or not what you're proposing would satisfy that requirement.
72 is 72, presumably, should be fungible. So if we could find 72 of existing, trip those people out, bring in 72 affordable, would that potentially meet the mandate till
Mr. Carl, what
2025?
I've said is that that's something that is not provided for in the agreement as it stands. Would have to go back to Fair Share Housing and the Special Master and relook at it with them and renegotiate it. But as it stands now, no, we're looking at new sites or a new site.
But that hasn't been fully vetted. The 24 is done. The 72 could conceivably at least ask the question to see if we could do that?
I said that that would be done because everything is possible. Could is open-ended. Whether it's probable or not, that it would remain to be determined. I will speak with them, but that is not what is before the Township Committee tonight. That is not what they're being asked to vote upon. So at this point, that is not before them. It would require relooking at the agreement with the other parties.
Just using to go to the gentleman before, could you commit to asking the question to the folks when we get to the 72, which is clearly not tonight, so we can be in front of a person for a change instead of behind the
I'll give you the same response that I
fact?
gave to the other gentleman. I am not going to negotiate in public with the developer or Fair Share Housing. It will be considered going forward, but this is not the appropriate place.
Thank you, Stuart.
Where would be the appropriate place then for that? To ask the questions and have this forum to see if we can get that as part of the discussion? This is not the pro forum? Is it just talking to individual committee members? How do we get there?
I want to make clear, we have an agreement with Fair Share Housing, and that's what's going to be voted upon tonight.
That's the 24 and the 72
That's
also.
the entire plan.
That's the number,
Okay.
Stuart.
All right, so we're talking-
That's the number, the overall
That's
number
okay.
is negotiated tonight.
Mhm.
Moving forward, what I think Mr. Cruz has said is basically everything is possible, but it's probably not probable. It's getting to the number. Now, we're getting to the number by identifying, that we have to identify at some point a site. Could it change in the future, 2 years from now, 3 years from now? Possibly.
Well, but again-
But it's not part of the negotiated settlement we're doing tonight.
And the commitment you're making is to find an alternate site or sites.
Correct.
For
Which
74
could
units.
include existing housing stock. Just have that as part of the discussion.
Again,
If we could.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I will close up the hearing of citizens at this time. I'll ask any committee members have any questions, comments?
I actually have a question regarding the transfer of the entire parcel of land. Counselor, it's 13.8 acres, is that?
No. It is a little over 3 acres. You're not.
So that's the
Right.
only portion that's being transferred?
Correct.
And the rest of it remains Chatham Township property, but certainly with DEP restrictions and so on?
Well, technically, what's going to happen is if this proceeds forward as part of an application that the developer makes before the planning board, there will be a subdivision application to create the 3.8 acres of the skate park as a standalone lot.
Right.
The remainder of the property where the police department is located and the Department of Public Works is located will be a separate standalone lot.
And that includes all the area that is at this point unusable according to the DEP? That still remains Chatham Township property?
No, there will be areas on the skate park property that are unusable, that are wetlands.
Right.
That are delineated as wetlands and cannot be used. That no longer would be township property, that would be the developer's property.
Got it.
And that deed would have a deed restriction saying that in the event the developer no longer used that property for the next 30 years as affordable housing, that it would come back to the town. So it does come with a condition that it has to be used as affordable housing for the next 30 years. But that parcel that is in red in the redevelopment plan is what would be subdivided out and conveyed to the developer.
Right. So the balance remains Chatham
Yes.
Township property?
Yes.
Thank you, Albert.
Thanks, Albert. Anyone else?
And that'll be removed as affordable housing.
Pardon me?
Yeah.
Correct, and as was pointed out by Mr. Price, the part of the redevelopment plan removes the affordable housing designation for the entire parcel. Right now, all 13-plus acres are designated as affordable housing. So this now carves out that portion of the property.
Thank you.
I just want to mention something, if you may. For the relocating the skate park, I live just 10 minutes walking distance from that skate park, and when I walk my dog every morning, and actually over the weekends, I see that skate park is being used very, very densely. So I see all the time many people there, and I think we should relocate it, and I will support that 100%. And only concern is that it shouldn't be a tax burden to you. And so, but my understanding is that we could creatively find some solutions. It wouldn't become a tax burden to you and to us, all of us, and come up with some kind of partnerships, public, private, and nonprofits and for-profits and any kind of organizations. And if that becomes the opportunity, then we will definitely should follow it, and I'll commit to everyone, and that I will pursue, and I will follow up with the committee members. I will work with committee members and our town administrator to follow through on that.
Be a czar.
Say again?
Thank you. Czar. You could be the skate park czar.
Yeah, maybe.
Czar is a good title.
I'd just like to thank everybody who came out tonight. I think we already know how well used the skate park is, but it's always a positive and a plus to actually see the people who are using it, hear what they have to say, and really kind of have it driven in how valuable it's perceived. I think that the people who preceded us up here and who worked with the previous generation of skaters and parents to develop the existing park deserve a lot of credit. They really showed a lot of foresight in using a piece of property that was available for a period of time and using it in a way that benefited a lot of people for a lot of years. I think that one of the things that I heard today that I feel very good about is that there is an organized support group that's forming, and they are willing to work with the township to try to go forward, identifying sites and sharing the particulars from their side. So I certainly urge everyone who does support the skate park to plug into that group and continue to be active going forward. I mean, I think that I hope that you got the message from our side that this is not a dead issue. We are going to try to resolve this and come out of it with a skate park that's available for its constituency here. It's important, and we know that. We don't have a solution at this time, but we're definitely committed to work with the people who love it, and working with our experts, our engineer, our township administrator, to try to come up with a solution to this.
They have a Facebook page too, by the way. I'm sure that the folks who are concerned about the matter can actually go and search on it. It's not all that active, but I think with an actual project or an endeavor that folks have to focus on it, that they can go and start communicating with one another perhaps for the future of the skate park. So do a search on Facebook and take a look at it. It's out there.
All right. My final comment is this has been a long journey for this committee over the past 2+ years to get to where we are today. And while a lot of the discussion tonight was about the skate park, which is a great community center, as it were, the bigger picture is the efforts of this committee over the past 2+ years, as I said, as well as Tom Chiccarone, our administrator, Albert Cruz, our counsel, John Rushy, our engineer, Frank Banish, our planner. Significant work. People have talked many times asking for updates as to what's going on with Dixie-Dale, what's going on with affordable housing. We probably spent more time in executive session than we probably did in public session over the past 2 years, which is pretty significant, the amount of time that was dedicated by the members on this day. So I just want to say thank you for everyone for their efforts. Thank you to our council and John and Frank for their advice, for their guidance and such, and the negotiations and all the rest. It's been a lot of work to get us to where we are today. And just reiterate, it's great to see all the community residents and non-residents come out tonight to talk about their support and love of the skate park. We know that is a valued part of our community, and just reiterate that we will make our efforts to relocate it and do what we can. The great thing about the skate park when it was built some 20+ years ago, or about 20 years ago, I guess, was the public support for it and the private funds that were raised for it. And while the next skate park is to be determined as to where it might be and what capacity it might be built, it will require some of those private funds. But I think having people here tonight and the interest you've shown, I don't think it should be a small task to garner more public support for this. So I thank you for coming out here. Importantly, I encourage you to come out to other future meetings where the skate park is not discussed, to learn more about your government and all that comes to before the committee affects the residents itself. So with that, I will ask for a motion to approve. First, do we do individual ordinances or we just bundle it all together?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, you're going to take separate votes on all of these things.
Resolutions included?
Yes, separate votes along the line, and in fact, you've just completed the public hearings on ordinance 2018-22 and a public hearing on ordinance 2018-23. Under the non-consent agenda, I would request that you address that matter or consider that matter before taking up the third ordinance, so you can complete all of the affordable housing matters at one time, and then you would take up the public hearing on ordinance 2018-24 prohibiting smoking and vaping shops. So it would be appropriate, and as I said to you, the planning board has made their reviews and referrals, and you have their reports before them, so it is you do have the ability to consider these ordinances. So the first would be ordinance, I'll ask the clerk to read it.
That's my question. Do we have to read the whole thing, or we can just give what's on the agenda?
No, just the heading. The clerk can read the heading as you do in the normal course.
Great.
So is this the heading for...
We need a motion to approve ordinance 2018-22, adopting redevelopment plan.
You want me to read the heading?
Is there a motion?
He's going to read the heading just so it's clear.
I just did.
You just did? I'm sorry.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Had enough of that.
No discussion.
Ready for a vote?
Ready for a vote?
Mr. Solin?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Schwartz?
Yes.
Mayor Ritter?
Yes. Resolution 2018-192 designating redeveloper for skate park site. Is there a motion to approve? Or is there any discussion?
No,
We can
just
move on.
simply, this is as I indicated in my remarks, this is designating Southern Boulevard Urban Renewal LLC as the redeveloper of this property. They're the folks that made this presentation under the local housing, the local rehabilitation, under the local redevelopment and housing law. That is an obligation that the Township Committee has, is to designate a redeveloper.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Selin?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Schwartz?
Yes.
Mayor Ritter?
Yes. Next up is Resolution 2018-193, resolution of the Township Committee of the Township of Chatham and the County of Morris ratifying and confirming a site access agreement with Southern Boulevard Urban Renewal LLC, granting access to a portion of Block 14.16, Lot 117.27, the skate park property. Do you have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
And that resolution authorizes the mayor and clerk to sign an access agreement for Southern Boulevard Urban Renewal to perform due diligence on the property, such as environmental surveying, topography, and it's part of any due diligence that any prospective party that's acquiring property would undertake. I took the liberty of negotiating this agreement with the help of Mr. Rushke and have authorized that they proceed with those inspections. And so that's why this resolution is a little bit unusual. It's a ratifying and confirming resolution, so you're ratifying and confirming what has already occurred.
Mr. Selin?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Schwartz?
Yes.
Mayor Ritter?
Yes. Next up is ordinance 2018-23. Shall I read the whole thing, Albert, or are you going to?
No, you can read the heading, yes.
All right. Phasing of market to affordable units. Do you want to say anything else, Albert?
Well, again, that ordinance has three components. The building height, a specific definition of building height for the Dixie-Dale property because of the topography, enhanced landscaping buffering to ameliorate that, and then the component dealing with affordable housing, requiring that the two be coupled and be built, not simultaneous, but that at certain milestones, for example, when there are 40% of the certificates of occupancy are issued for Dixie-Dale, the foundation has to be in for the skate park buildings, and when 70% of the Dixie-Dale COs are issued, the entire two buildings at the skate park have to be completed. And that's so that the two work in tandem and that the two are delivered at the end.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right.
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Schwartz?
Yes.
Mayor Ritter?
Yes.
Now, that vote does not become effective unless you adopt a reasons resolution giving or explaining the reasons why you're why you believe this is consistent with the master plan as opposed to the planning board's determination of inconsistency. You did this originally a year ago. The resolution was in part of your package, like all these other items, and you've had an opportunity to study it and review it. So I don't think you need to read the entire resolution. The heading is sufficient and the explanation is sufficient. But that ordinance does not become effective until the reasons resolution is adopted.
Very good. And thus we have Resolution 2018-194, resolution of the Township Committee of the Township of Chatham and the County of Morris stating the reasons for adopting ordinance number 2018-23. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Selin?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Schwartz?
Yes.
Mayor Ritter?
Yes. Now we have resolution regarding affordable housing settlement.
Yes.
We move it from the non-consent agenda.
Yes.
Do we need to have a motion for that?
You can roll the law into one motion, have it a motion to move it up to this part of the meeting, and a motion to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the agreement.
Did anyone want me to repeat that?
That's just as he said.
Basically, motion to approve the resolution.
This is the non-consent agenda resolution regarding affordable housing settlement.
It's the settlement.
Is there a
This is
motion?
the settlement.
This is the
agreement. That is the settlement agreement, and so the Township Committee is aware. Fair Share Housing has signed the settlement agreement, and I have a signed copy.
Great. Is there-
Yeah, 210.
So this will be Resolution 2018-210, you're saying?
Yes.
Very good. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Selin?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Thank you, Greg. Before I vote on this, I'm just going to make some comments as we talked about. This is a big deal, and this is where the other sections were part of what we just did in the overall negotiation, but this is the actual overall settlement. So I'm just going to follow up on some of the things that Kurt said, and before I vote, I wrote it down so I wouldn't mess it up now. Before I vote, I want to take this opportunity to thank my fellow committee members for their dedication and diligence in dealing with what is certainly the biggest issue that we have faced as a town in many years. In an effort to get this right, and there is no way to get it right, there have been numerous meetings, phone calls, and executive sessions running into the night. I think the longest was 5.5 hours, ruining Mr. Cruz's dinner plans. As those who can attest, I have often been very vocal, active participant in these debates, and at times my thoughts, principles, and emotions have run deep on this issue, but always walking away with great respect for my fellow committeemen, our attorney, Mr. Cruz, our planner, Frank Banish, engineer John Rushke, and our administrator, Tom Chiccarone, as well as our clerk, Greg LaConte, to arrive at a solution that is best for Chatham Township. Every single one of them has worked hard and given thoughtful consideration on all matters. And thank you for your patience and indulgence, certainly with me. Hundreds and hundreds of hours have been devoted to this, and that is more of an understatement than an exaggeration, to get us where we are tonight. The committee has looked at, discussed, reviewed, made changes, demanded conditions be met, and consulted with our professionals over and over again. On multiple occasions, we thought we were at the goal line, only to have the goal line extended. Tonight, we will cross the goal line, and some might look at this and say, we've won, and in many ways we have, but there are no winners in this, with the exception of those few who will benefit at taxpayers' expense. It's only always been a question of how bad you want to lose. I can confidently say that we have exhausted every possibility under the mandates imposed upon us by the courts to position the township as best we could, and we have. I also want to thank the Har family, the owners of Dixie-Dale, for enduring a long and arduous process that found them entwined in a lawsuit forced upon us and de facto them by Fair Share Housing Center. I found that action entwining them in our problem so wrong. I have always viewed them as a neighbor who happened to own one of the last large parcels of land in town. They approached the town almost 5 years ago now with ideas on what they envisioned they could do with their property. Like most property owners, they wanted to extract value, but mindful of the township, not looking to overdevelop their land. Their family has been part of Chatham Township for over 100 years, active in the community, and even donated the red brick schoolhouse to the town, which has served as the municipal building and now the Historical Society's museum. At times, the Hars reached extremes of frustration on trying to comprehend this whole affordable housing mess, as we struggled with it as well. Had a lesser family owned that property, they would have cut and run a long time ago. And our discussion here tonight would be a lot different than the one we are having. Credit also to the Hars chosen developers, Sun and Sterling Homes, for standing with the Hars and, however frustrating at times, with us while we struggled to settle our lawsuit in committing to see this project to its fruition and us to meet our mandate. On a much broader front, since March of 2015, municipalities have had a gun squarely pointed at their head. Facing the threat of lawsuit, untold costs ahead, and every aspect of the law working against them, it has been a daunting task. Fair Share Housing Center is on a march across the state, the likes of which have not been seen since Sherman marched across Georgia. This time it's terrorizing municipalities to their knees. Their press releases will tell you it's about helping seniors, the disabled, and others, but it is not. There is no incentive for that. Mr. Cruz gave you an overview of the Mount Laurel decision. That decision was originally to allow people who live in your town to stay in your town. It has drifted far from that. Legislation should be focusing on providing housing to our veterans, disabled, and our municipal workers below the income threshold, and our volunteers. Most of our volunteer firemen live outside of town. Shouldn't they be offered, if they meet the requirements, first rights to housing? But that's not how the program works. Trenton has abandoned this fight, leaving the towns to fend for themselves and to find ways to offset the costs.
Like most government that gets funded in New Jersey, that will come in the form of higher property taxes. The legislature has not offered anything in the way of proportionally offsetting the cost to municipalities when it comes to services and schools. Some 50-plus bills have been introduced by Republicans on affordable housing, only to die a slow death in committee, never reaching the light of day. But this is not just a Republican issue, this is a state issue. Regardless of political makeup, many towns would welcome development and actually have areas in real need of redevelopment, not just those designating such so they can alter their zoning to achieve some arbitrary shifting spreadsheet quota. Those towns struggle with how they will fund the costs of infrastructure as well. When you hear those who call for limited government, this is the exact opposite. When you hear people speak about judicial activism, the courts going beyond their bounds and usurping the power of the rightful body to enact law, the legislature, this is it. If you ever wondered what crony capitalism looks like, this is it. Fair Share Housing Center is the conduit used in enabling corporate welfare. If you do not support welfare, then you cannot support welfare for the rich. And this is what, in many instances, affordable housing mandates do. They allow builders to enter your town and do what they wouldn't otherwise be allowed to: overdevelop your town in the name of affordable housing. How it takes place is what Frederick Bastiat labeled legal plunder. Fair Share Housing Center is carrying out a mission that they have been duly authorized to perform, but in doing so, I believe they will destroy the state one town at a time. The legacy of this era will not be that they did something to provide affordable housing for the state, as government has a long track record of failure when it comes to providing housing. Some will say this isn't government housing, but it is, just in a different form. We have failed to learn from the past, and this will be no different. The damage will be done, and as they will have succeeded in turning the garden state into the garden apartment state. In doing so, what little was left of the American dream in New Jersey has been destroyed. No longer can a starter home be built on available land. Odds are that will be rezoned for multifamily, high-density housing. 20 years down the road, when you are looking for someone to blame for overcrowded trains, congested local roads and interstates, higher taxes, stormwater drainage issues, local property values, lower property values, and an overall diminished quality of life throughout your town and the state of New Jersey, look no further than those who have continually failed us in the state legislature. Don't try to find them in New Jersey, however, because they'll probably all be living on a golf course in Florida, built by a New Jersey developer friend who made a fortune destroying your town. The rest of us poor schleps will still be here left to deal with it. As for me, as my time comes to a close in this committee, my vote is not at odds with my fellow committeemen. This is a good plan. We have developed an excellent plan for this town. But it is rather a statement on everything that is wrong about the way affordable housing is mandated and managed in the state of New Jersey, and is antithetical to everything I believe about this issue. My vote on this resolution is no.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.
Deputy Mayor Schwartz?
Yes.
And Mayor Ritter?
Yes. Next up, we have ordinance 2018-24, prohibiting smoking in vaping shops. Open up for hearing of citizens, Albert, right?
Yes, please.
Open here. Anyone else to speak before this, on this ordinance, please come forward. Seeing no one come forward, we'll close the hearing of citizens. Open up for discussion among committee members.
Mayor, I guess I'd ask that we table this ordinance. I think that some good points have been raised at our previous meeting when we introduced it, and I think I've heard other good points since then, that people who are concerned that this crosses the line in some areas that Kevin just dealt with, that this infringes on the ability of property owners to do legal activity in their own, on their own property and in their own places of business. It takes things which would be like cigar smoking in a restaurant or in a cigar shop, and makes it illegal. And I think that that's an intrusion, and I think I oppose it.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I would like to offer that with seriously due respect to property owners and store owners, we do, as Mr. Sullivan has said in the past, have an obligation to the wellness of our community. And if we are looking at defining who we are, if we have certain shreds of independence left as a township, we do have an ability to stand up for what we think we want going on in our town. Does this include precluding tattoo parlors if that becomes something that somebody needs to address? Perhaps it does. With the legislation put forth by our new governor to legalize marijuana throughout the state, I think there is an important opportunity to getting ahead of that matter once again. So I think that this is certainly in keeping with our dedication to wellness, with our dedication to caring for our citizens, caring for our community, especially caring for our children. So
Thank you, Karen.
I'm certainly a proponent of it.
Thank you. And I'll just reiterate, the reason I introduced this ordinance some weeks ago is because I think job number one for this committee is public safety. And this ordinance is designed to, as it says, believes that it's in the best interest of the health, safety, and welfare of its residents. Thus, that's the reason I am introducing it. Vaping has become an increased burden in our society, particularly among our young adults. If there's a way that we could prohibit and restrict access to the ease of buying vaping materials and other articles, so to speak, that do damage to the developing bodies and such, I will support it wholeheartedly and encourage all of us to do so.
I will also reiterate, when it comes to the kids, I would imagine that a lot of our liquor stores still are up against the wall doing their damnedest to try and prevent underage purchase of alcohol and cigarettes. And it's their their legal obligation to do so. Now you're just introducing a whole other area of trying to keep wellness and children together in one sentence.
I'll take a second round then too,
Sure,
as well.
Back in the queue.
There are existing laws that prohibit selling vapor materials and cigarette materials, cigars, to underage people, and I have confidence in our police department that they can enforce those laws. I think that surveys have been done, including surveys by our own municipal alliance, that show that underage vapors are getting them from the internet. They're not buying them from a local head shop. In fact, there isn't anyone in the township, much less as well. I think that our local liquor stores do a good job, and again, the municipal alliance works with them individually to educate and to accomplish the kinds of limitations that we want to about underage sales of liquor. And so I think that there are existing laws and restrictions that address the concerns that we have here, and I think we should let them play out. On a related subject, the Municipal Alliance in the first quarter of 2019 will be hosting a series of town hall meetings on the different aspects of marijuana and vaping of marijuana, and probably 3 different town meetings on 3 different aspects of this whole topic. So I just ask the audience and ask ourselves to look for those dates when they're assigned, and I think we could all learn something. Thank you.
Great. And also reiterate, we had a vaping seminar here in the township about a year ago or so, which is also on our video library online. Encourage folks to look at that. But with that, without further ado, I will ask for a motion to introduce ordinance 2018-24.
Mr. Mayor, if I may
Yes.
interrupt you, this is adoption of the ordinance.
Correct.
You said introduce.
We had public hearing,
Right.
one step forward.
Correct, but this is, you said introduce, so it's
I'm sorry.
adoption.
My apologies. This is the adoption of ordinance 2018-24 prohibiting smoking in vaping shops. Motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Selin?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
No.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Schwartz?
Yes.
Mayor Ritter?
Yes. Moving on to the consent agenda. Is there any discussion on the agenda? Before Greg reads it off?
Mr. Mayor, if I may. The resolution in your packet for Resolution 2018-203 has the correct heading. The heading is not correct on your agenda. So the resolution heading for 203 is Resolution of the Township Committee of the Township of Chatham, County of Morris, State of New Jersey, amending Resolution 2018-007, authorizing interest rate / grace period / year-end penalty. This is a standard resolution that municipalities adopt in addition to the other two that the tax collector has requested that they be adopted. Okay. You fixed it? Okay.
It has been fixed.
I apologize, it's been fixed. I was looking at an older version. So I take all of that back.
Very good. Thank you, Albert. Any discussion on the consent agenda? All right, Greg, you want to read them off for us, please?
Resolution 2018-195, payment of bills. 2018-196, receipt of reports. 2018-197, approving meeting minutes. 2018-198, approving executive session minutes. 2018-199, releasing escrow balances. 2018-200, refunding electrical permit fee. 2018-201, option to apply tax overpayments to subsequent quarters. 2018-202, authorizing tax collector to cancel balances less than $10. 2018-203, authorizing interest rate / grace period / year-end penalty. 2018-204, authorizing extension of temporary cell tower lease. 2018-205, authorizing reimbursement agreement with T-Mobile. 2018-206, canceling unexpended balances. 2018-207, canceling stale dated checks. 2018-208, redemption of outside lien. 2018-209, budget transfers.
Do you have a motion to approve? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Selin?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Swartz?
Yes.
Mayor Ritter?
Yes. Next up is an item for discussion, shared service agreement for Class 3 special law enforcement officers at Chatham High School. Tom, you want to?
Yes, Mayor, we've had some preliminary discussions, I think, about this subject in the past, and I think you all are aware that the Board of Education has included funds in their current school year budget to hire Class 3 officer for two schools, the Chatham High School and the Chatham Middle School. The Class 3 officer is something that was created by the state of New Jersey, I think at this point, maybe about 2 years ago, that would allow retired police officers who have been retired for less than 5 years to be employed in the capacity of a Special Law Enforcement Officer 3, commonly now referred to as a SLEO. What you have before you is a proposed shared service agreement that would be executed between us and the Board of Education for the hiring of one special officer for Chatham High School to be paid for entirely by the Board of Education. The statute requires that the officer actually be an employee of the Township Police Department under the direction and control of the police chief, subject to the policies and procedures of the police department, but with all costs being borne on a reimbursement basis. We would bill the Board of Education quarterly for all costs associated with that officer. So I have it in front of you for your consideration. I believe that you've previously indicated a willingness to enter into such an agreement as long as the Board of Ed was taking care of all the costs. So, with that, I would ask if you have any questions or you want to have discussion among yourselves about it, have at it.
Any discussion?
I'm wondering about the process of hiring these people. Obviously, there are parameters for what their qualifications, their timeframes, et cetera, are.
Right.
When it comes to who is actually going through the hiring process, is that the school district of the Chathams?
No, it'll be the chief of police, and through the normal hiring process, they're subject to the same vetting. Of course, most of them, or all of them, are retired officers, so they
Right.
would have already gone through psychological testing and that sort of stuff. I believe that there's language in the agreement that the superintendent and/or principal of the schools could have input. The chief would consult with them with regards to the hiring, but ultimately the decision is actually yours because they're going to be a township employee, but it would be a recommendation to you from the chief of police,
Right.
in the same manner that we approve all other hires in the police department.
These people they haven't been Class 3 officers before, I guess, right? Because they only have a certain, I hate to use the word shelf life with human beings, but they have to have come from a police force
No,
within 3 years,
They have
right?
to have, within 5, I believe. Chief, isn't 5
They
years?
can
Oh,
they
I'm
have
sorry,
to,
3
they
years.
can
sorry.
be out of active
Yeah.
duty for 3 years.
But in theory, they could be a Class 3 somewhere else and come here.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to go directly from being a full-time officer to this. But it's more common that that's the way it will be.
Once they've shown that they are accomplished Class 3 officers, they can stay in that role for a long time? Or is it,
Well,
once
from-
again, is there a
from-
shelf life to how long a Class 3 officer can serve in?
From year to year, and I assume that the mandatory retirement age would apply the same as it does for active officer, at 65.
At 65.
Yeah.
And they go through training as Chatham Township police officers?
Tom, you want to come up?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks, Chief. When it comes to the training, is it such a standardized procedure? Obviously, we're going to have one township employee, and then we're going to have the Class 3 officer at the middle school will be a borough employee,
Correct.
presumably trained in a similar fashion,
But
right?
they would be trained identically to how we're trained. Their requirements are the same as a full-time officer.
Mhm.
Obviously, the borough would train their personnel,
Okay.
and we would be responsible for ours.
Mhm. Additionally, I suppose this was something we would hear from the school district, but that leaves Lafayette Avenue, obviously, as a campus buddy on high school property. Will there be any kind of obligation, restriction, prohibition?
If I may, I think for security reasons, we don't want to give out details as to how this officer will conduct his daily activities,
Right.
but it is expected that he or she will rotate around and make stops at the other schools as well. I think you should know that the superintendent has indicated to me, and I believe publicly, that he would ultimately like to have a Class 3 officer at all of the schools.
Right, sure. Are there a lot of them around us? A lot of communities, folks that you know, you've got a great network of other chiefs?
A
of-
majority of the towns are now implementing them, so
That's great. So you'll have a network of
And
best
some
practices
towns,
and so
yeah,
on.
some towns are actually using Class 2s. Class 2 officers have been in existence for many years. Seashore communities typically hire Class 2s in the summer.
Okay.
They do go through an academy, they do carry a weapon, and their duties and responsibilities are not as limited as this one. This is strictly limited to providing security at school facilities and events. They are not involved in any other aspect of school discipline or anything like that, purely security. The Class 2 officers can do anything assigned by the chief outside of the school.
When you say at events, if you go to Chatham High School baseball, they're right behind the school. What about a football game? Do they go to after-school events off campus?
they potentially could be hired for that, yes, at an additional cost. Typically, we deploy our personnel to cover them, but it wouldn't exclude the Class 3 from doing the same thing.
But that's not part of the plan.
That's not part of the
I'm
plan.
saying statutorily,
Correct.
they would be permitted to do that. That's not what we plan to do.
And our officers are making regularly routine stops through the schools on
We're throughout the
On a daily
schools,
basis.
continuously throughout the day.
Right.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Chief. Appreciate it.
So do we introduce something or just consensus
Well, it would be a resolution, but you can, Albert, with Albert's permission, you can, I think, adopt this by motion to approve the, authorizing the mayor to sign the shared service agreement.
There is a
Actually,
resolution
do you
in your
have a
packet.
resolution in the packet? Yeah, so the resolution is
Behind the
there.
consent agenda.
So it would now be numbered 211.
Resolution 211?
Yes, and the agreement itself was previously distributed to the committee.
All right, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2018-211, resolution of the Township Committee of the Township of Chatham and the County of Morris, New Jersey, authorizing execution of an agreement between the Township of Chatham and the School District of Chatham for Special Law Enforcement Officer 3. Is
So moved.
there a second?
Second it.
Mr. Salin?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Schwartz?
Yes.
Mayor Ritter?
Yes.
And just for clarity, so that there's no misunderstanding, the chief is going to implement this ASAP.
Great. Thanks, Tom. We'll now open up for hearing of citizens.
Hi, Stacy Ewald, Nicholson Drive. It has been a long night. So this is the first time I've heard that the affordable housing, the property that the affordable housing is going to be on is going to be handed over to the developer. And it just raised in my mind the fact that numbers really haven't been a part of a lot of this discussion. Opportunity costs, when Stu Carr was up here, he had some valid questions and concerns about the overall analysis of what's going on. So I guess my suggestion would be in the future, especially for the benefit of transparency and so that you don't get all the questions, is to, similar to what the Board of Ed does, they provide options, they provide alternatives, you see the numbers, you see the cost, the opportunity cost. I don't think we had the benefit of that for the affordable housing analysis. And similarly, when it comes to the skate park, I would ask when the, alternatives are being weighed, there's a lot of park grounds in the township, and it would be nice to see the inventory and why those were excluded for the movement of the skate park. And then same thing, pricing, if the decision is to move it, what's the pricing? If the decision is we can't negotiate with the developer, if we go for concrete, what is the pricing aspect of that? So, and especially when it comes to inventory, we have so much open space, and it's unclear why we can't find space for them. It might be clear to you, but it's definitely not clear to everybody else that's out here why, whether it's Geralda Farms, whether it's there's 200 or how many acres across from Lawanica, that's not even delineated, so nobody knows how we can use it or where exactly it is. So it would be nice to know what that inventory is and whether or not it can be used, and if not, why it's been excluded. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll continue to be as transparent as we have been in the past and make sure people are aware of what's going on. Thank you. All right, we're moving now, closing out the hearing of citizens. Moving off to executive session. Greg, you want to read resolution?
Mayor, I'm sorry, but before you do, I want to just dispel any notion with regards to Geralda Farms, because that is a large parcel that we acquired a couple of years ago, but it is severely restricted and specifically designated for passive recreation. The agreements that led to that purchase specifically prohibited any kind of athletic facilities or fields. So the skate park there just absolutely would be verboten, not going to happen. Okay, so.
Thank you, Tom. Greg?
Resolution 2018-P-16, resolution of the Township Committee of the Township of Chatham and the County of Morris, State of New Jersey, authorizing conference of the Township Committee with the public excluded. Whereas NJSA 10:4-12 of the Open Public Meetings Act permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas the Township Committee of the Township of Chatham is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, now therefore be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Chatham, County of Morris, State of New Jersey as follows. The public shall be excluded from discussion of the specified subject matter. The general nature of the subject matter to be discussed is as follows. Personnel. It is anticipated that the minutes on the subject matter of the executive session will be made public upon conclusion of the matter under discussion, and in any event when appropriate pursuant to NJSA 10:4-7 and 4-13, The committee will come back into regular session and may take further action. This resolution shall take effect immediately.
Is there a motion to approve? Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Slun?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Schwartz?
Yes?
Mayor Ritter?
Yes.
And again, so that the record's clear, I do intend to ask for approval when you come back out into open session on one item.